So did you know that the Second Amendment is the only right that the founders intended the government can bend and mess around with? Yeah, me neither. This is The Brink. And folks, remember to like, comment, and subscribe if you like me and you like what we do here. And if you love it, you can become a Daily Caller Patriot. There's a link in that description below. First of all, I want to just say thank you, everybody, for tuning in today. I know it's Thanksgiving. I hope everybody is having a wonderful time celebrating with friends, family, loved ones. And I hope you guys all have a wonderful holiday. Now, on to some very important stuff. So the state of Oregon is fighting with all of their might to strip its residents of their Second Amendment right. Luckily, a judge blocked Measure 114, which would put in a slew of restrictions. Okay, the judge said that this infringes on the Second Amendment, which it does. But of course, the state is appealing it. Now, one regulation requires a police-issued 5-year permit and a federal background check on all guns, including safety training, right? Mandatory classes. The judge also ruled that the 30-day window to process a gun application prevents residents from defending themselves from an imminent attack. Now, again, the government is telling you that you have to wait to defend yourself, right? That your right, which could save your life, actually has a waiting period. Imagine them telling you, well, you have to wait 30 days to say something. That is bonkers, right? The judge also ruled that the magazine capacity ban is unreasonable because, according to the judge and anybody with a brain, criminals can just carry multiple 10-round magazines, right? They can reload it quickly. But on the topic of permits, a permit to purchase is very interesting because it is absolutely a caveat to the Second Amendment, right? It's well, you can exercise your right if you do X, Y, Z. Again, imagine saying, well, you can have free speech if you put an application that you want to say something, right? It's ridiculous. Let's read the Second Amendment really quickly. I don't think most people do these days. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. There are no except clauses, right? There's no but clauses. You just read the amendment. It also says that the purpose of the Second Amendment right there is to preserve a free state. Literally tells us what the purpose of this amendment for, right? It had nothing to do with hunting, okay? It had everything to do with maintaining a free state from an overbearing government that would then try to strip that right away, okay? Like they're doing now. Now, I want to bring in James Madison here. He wrote Federalist 46. He writes, "The governments are afraid to trust the people with arms, and it is not certain that with this aid alone, they would not be able to shake off their yokes. But were the people to possess the additional advantages of local governments chosen by themselves, who could collect the national will and direct the national force, and of officers appointed out of the militia by these governments and attached both to them and to the militia, it may be affirmed with the greatest assurance that the throne of every tyranny in Europe would be speedily overturned in spite of the legions which surround it." Now, the point of this specific Federalist paper was for Madison to calm fears that Americans had about the creation of a federal government, right? He was making the point to these citizens that don't worry, because you guys will be an armed citizenry, right? And an armed citizenry that maintains their weapons in defense of a tyrannical government while also electing its own representatives would deter and prevent any type of tyrannical rule, like a king, a queen, or just an authoritative government, right? Imagine trying to then argue now that James Madison held these types of beliefs, but then would also believe that the government could regulate what firearms can be bought or sold, right? How many bullets you can have, and more importantly, who can have a firearm, right? We already have age limits. In fact, not even just at the state level, but at the federal level, gun control runs afoul to what the founders wanted. Sam Adams, he once said that a Bill of Rights should include language that guarantees that the, quote, Constitution be never construed to authorize Congress to prevent the people of the United States, who are peaceable citizens, from keeping their own arms. So that's at a federal level, right? And right now with Oregon, we're talking about at a state level. It is one of the many reasons why there were no gun control laws up until 1934, when the, basically socialist dictator FDR came into office, okay? Tell me, how did we survive all of those years without restrictions? How did we do it? And just a small side story now. So William Cogswell, he just became the first Republican mayor elected to Charleston, South Carolina since 1877. Wow, we're talking more than 100 years. Now, the reason that it's even, more of a bigger deal is because he defeated a two-term incumbent Democrat by 569 votes. That's it. And that is why it is so important to vote, because a lot of people, and myself included, especially being in New York, if you're in a blue state, you know how I feel. I feel like my vote is worthless, right? It's just one vote. What difference does it make? But it does. We saw it in Colorado with Lauren Boebert. We're seeing it now in Charleston, South Carolina. Imagine 569 people decided, you know what? I'm just going to stay at home, okay? Because my vote doesn't count. They easily could have done that, but they had enough of the current trajectory, right? The current trajectory that leads us down paths towards a government that wants to strip you of your Second Amendment right. Literally, local, state, federal elections, they matter. Every vote matters. And I hope that everyone has enough of the current trajectory for next year too, and not just at the presidential level, right? At your local levels, at your state levels. If someone is up for office, you need to make sure that you're voting to hold them accountable. Folks, we will have more for you right here tomorrow on The Brink. And again, happy Thanksgiving.